Hey there, this video will go over the radicals review assignment. Feel free to jump around to any questions that you need help with. Feel free to pause, rewind, if there's an explanation that you don't understand, or feel free to reach out and email me. Let's go ahead and get started. Number 1 asks us to write what is 5 3/4 as a decimal. Remember to make sure to include the whole number in your answer. So 5 is my whole number, point, because I'm getting to my fraction, and 3/4. So how do I turn 3/4 into a decimal? Go to your scientific calculator, and I'm going to type in 3 and divided by 4, whatever that division is, and you'll see on the right hand side over here it equals 0.75. So 5.75 is my final answer. Next, what is 0.19 repeating? So remember, that means that I have 0.19191919 repeating on forever. Remember, the rules for writing fractions that repeat are to count how many digits are after that decimal place that repeat. So I have 19, that is 2 digits. I'm going to make my fraction. Because there are 2 digits, I'm going to write 2 9s, and that's just kind of a rule that you have to remember. Repeating, I put 9s in the denominator. And in the numerator, or in the top of the fraction, I'm going to write whatever that number is that is repeating, which is 19. So I have the fraction 19 over 99, and that is my answer, because 19 cannot be simplified. Let's go ahead and talk about a second one. So again, 32 is 2 digits, so I'm going to write 32 on top, and because it's repeating, I'm going to put 99. That's my final answer. If I had a problem that said 0.123 repeating, then I would put, that's 3 digits, I'd put 999 and 123 in the top. All right, what is 0.35 as a fraction? So again, I'm going to count how many digits there are. There are 2, but this time there's no repeating bar. So instead of putting 9s in my denominator, I'm going to put 1, 0, 0. I always put the 1 in however many digits there are, how many zeros there are. That looks like a smiley face. Anyway, in the numerator, I'm going to put 35. Now, I do know this simplifies. I can divide them both by 5. If you're not confident simplifying, one way to always simplify correctly would be to use your scientific calculator. If I type in 35, clear it first, 35 divided by 100, I can see that over here it's 0.35, so I was right, but if I click on this button over here on the right hand side, it'll convert it to a fraction for me. So it simplifies to 7 over 20. Over 20. That's my final answer, simplified. All right, select whether the numbers are rational or irrational. Now on your assignment, it's a drop-down menu. On here, we're just going to write down what it is. Remember, the word rational has the word ratio in it, which means fraction. So if I can write the number as a fraction of whole numbers, it is rational. If I cannot turn it into a fraction, it is irrational, or some other common things that are irrational are pi or square roots that are not perfect squares. So square root of 31 is irrational. So let's go ahead and get started. Whoops. 5.12. Well, we know that this can be written as a fraction because we just wrote all of those repeating as fractions. This is 5 and 12 over 99 because it's repeating. Well, that certainly can be written as a fraction, so this is rational. 3/7, hey, it's already written as a fraction of whole numbers, so rational. Square root of 39. Now, I'm going to first test to see if this is a perfect square. The square root, so clear your thing, square root is over here on the left of 39, and I can see that it's 6.244997998. Notice that that button that says convert to a fraction is gone because I cannot convert this to a fraction. That makes this So since it is not a fraction, I use the irrational. Square root of 16 is a perfect square. If I type that into my calculator, it's going to equal 4. Now I can write 4 as a fraction, 4 over 1. So that makes this rational. And last but not least, negative 3 pi. Now anything with pi is always going to be irrational. And to demonstrate, if I use my scientific calculator, you can see negative 3 pi, negative 9.42. Now there's no option to convert that to a fraction. That is irrational. So explain why the square root of 49 is a rational number. Well, here's my explanation. The square root of 49 is a perfect square, which means the square root of 49 equals 7. 7 can be written as a fraction. So, if I had to write a sentence, since 7 can be written as a fraction, the number is rational. If I had talked about pi and why that was irrational, I would say pi cannot be written as a fraction. Find the square roots. So this is positive. So positive, I don't need to use the positive sign. Square root of 144, I'm going to just type that into my calculator. That equals 12. Square roots of, find the square root or roots of negative square root of 16. Well, with a negative in front, that means my answer is negative. And then the square root of 16, what times what is 16? Okay, 4 times 4. So square root of 16 is 4. The answer is negative 4. Make sure you include the negative on your answer. This funky symbol right here means I have 2 answers. One is positive and one is negative. Then I take the square root of 9. What times what equals 9? That would be a 3 times 3. So the square root of 9 is 3. And I have 2 answers, positive 3 and negative 3. Now you don't need to include that positive sign. Just so 3 and negative 3 would be my answers. All right. Evaluating the expression 10 plus simplify. Remember, I'm going to complete my order of operations. Parentheses, exponents. We're adding R for radicals. PEMDAS. So here we go. The adding is going to come last. I'm going to take care of the radical. The square root of 81 is 9. Okay, now I have to simplify 10 plus 9, which is 19. Now you can always use your calculator. It will help us out. 10 plus the radical of 81. And you can see over here on the right hand side, 19. When you type this into your calculator, please be careful, and if you type it all in the same time, make sure you close the parentheses around the radical. Otherwise, your calculator thinks you're doing this. Okay, which is why if you're getting a decimal answer, okay, that's why you've got to close the parentheses around the 36 and then minus 4. So let's simplify. Remember, order of operations. I'm going to take care of any parentheses. No, nothing inside parentheses. Exponents, no exponents. Radicals, yes. Square root of 36 is 6. This is multiplication, so I'm left with 2 times 6 minus 4. Between multiplication and subtraction, I deal with the multiplication first. 2 times 6 is 12. 12 minus 4 is 8. And that's my final answer. All right, evaluate the expression. So I'm going to work inside the parentheses first. Now I have these big sets of parentheses, and then I've got a lot going on inside the parentheses. So again, I'm going to see if there's any, inside the parentheses, are there any parentheses? Now there's imaginary parentheses around the 100 divided by 4. So that simplifies 2. 100 divided by 4 is 25. Inside the parentheses, am I going to do subtraction or the radical first? radicals come first, so I'm going to simplify. And now subtraction. 5 minus 3 is 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Estimate the square root to the nearest integer. Okay, n10th. I'm going to use my calculator on this one. This is the way to be the most accurate. So going to my calculator. Clear it. Square root of 17. 4.123. All right. So about 4.123, and then it kept on going. So estimate the square root to the nearest integer. That means I want no decimals. So if I want no decimals, I'm going to ask myself, is this number right here closer to a 4 or is it closer to 5? Well, 4.1, that's really small. It's closer to a 4. So part A is 4. Part B, 10th is 1 decimal place. So I am looking to see if this is closer to 4.1 or 4.2. Does this 2 make it round up or stay the same? Well, 2 is not halfway, so it does not round up. So my answer is 4.1 for part B. Let's look at a different example. Square root of 430. Clear. Square root of 430. 20.736. And it keeps on going. So nearest integer, I am interested in whether it is closest to 20 or 21. That 7 is above that halfway threshold, so it is closer to 21. Part B, nearest 10th. So I want to know closer to 20.7 or closer to 20.8. Okay, we're just fluctuating between 20.7, or does it go up by 0.1, 20.8? This 3 does not cross that halfway threshold, so we are closer to 20.7. This next question asks us to simplify this radical expression. So remember, when it says simplify and it doesn't say evaluate, we are not going to type it into our calculator because we want our answer to be simplified without decimals. So there's a couple ways to do this. Either to list perfect squares and to pull those out, or factor tree, which I am more partial to. So let's make a factor tree for 24. It splits into 6 and 4, or whatever you like. I'm just looking for prime numbers, and I cross them off as I split them up so I don't reuse it. 6 is not prime, so I'm going to continue to split. 2 and 3 are prime. I'm going to stop there, use 6, cross it off. 4 splits into 2 and a 2. So cross that off. So what I'm left with is, and I'm going to write all the numbers that I circled, minus that 4, I didn't mean to circle that, in order from least to greatest. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. Now, this is all multiplication because I multiplied 2 times, I split these into all the divisions that I could use to get to 24. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 is 24. When we simplify radicals, we are looking for pairs. So kind of like capture the flag, you have to have a pair to escape the square root prison. So I'm going to pull out a 2, and when I do, I'm going to cross off the pair that's on the inside. So I am left with, are there any pairs left over? Is 2 and 3 a pair? No, it's not. So on the outside, I'm left with a 2. On the inside, I'm left with a 2 times 3, which is 6. And that would be my simplified answer. Let's look at radical of 128. Now, if you don't know what goes into 128, just start dividing numbers, starting with a 2. Well, this is even, so I know that it divides evenly. Whoops, wrong button. So clear all. 128 divided by 2 is 64. And that's a prime number. 64 is not, so I simplify it. 8 and 8. Now, if you recognize that I have a pair, a duplicate, you can stop there. So radical of 2 times 8 times 8. Circle that pair, bring one pair out, cross it off from the inside so you don't reuse it. 8 radicals of 2 would be my answer. Sometimes people don't recognize that they've got a pair right there, and they continue to simplify into 4 and 2, and 4 and 2, and 4 splits into 2 and 2, and 4 splits into 2 and 2. So 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and then 2. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 2s. 2 times 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Circle your pairs. Pull it out front. So 2 comes out, a 2 comes out, and a 2 comes out. I multiply those all together. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, with this lonesome 2 on the inside. So notice no matter which way I did that, I ended up with the same answer. Simplifying radical expressions with addition or subtraction. So notice that both of these terms, so this term and this term, both have a radical of 13. Kind of like terms. This is kind of similar to the problem 9x minus 5x. But this time my variable is my radical sign. So I'm going to combine the numbers in front that says 9 minus 5, which is 4. And the 13, square root of 13 comes along like its sidekick. I don't add them or I don't subtract them. It just stays as a radical of 13. So I have 4 radicals of 13. Now, if I look at a problem and I say to myself, well, those are not the same radicals, they're not like terms, then I need to do one extra step. I'm going to simplify both radicals and then add them together. Now, 2 cannot be split any further, so this first term is as simplified as I can make it. I'm going to simplify this next term. 32 simplifies into 2 and 16. 16 splits into 2 and 8, so prime, prime. 8 splits into 4 and 2, prime, and 4 splits into 2 and 2. So if I simplify this radical, I end up with the radical of 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2's. Circle any pairs and pull out the pair. So 2 pulls out, and second pair 2 pulls out. Multiply those together. 2 times 2 is 4, radicals of 2. So what does this simplify to? I have 3 radicals of 2 plus 4 radicals of 2. So my answer simplifies to 7 radicals of 2. Multiplication. Now multiplication is a little bit different. Instead of simplifying to begin with, I can actually start by multiplying. 2 times 5 is 10. And now inside the radical, 3 times 2 is 6. I always check to see if I can simplify my radical. 6 splits into 2 and 3, neither of which are pairs, and it doesn't simplify any further, so my final answer is 10 radical 6. All right, simplifying this radical expression. Now, notice this one's the simplest form, so even though I multiply, I need to also simplify. So multiply the outsides. 2 times 4 is 8 on the outside, and on the inside of the radical, 5 times 15 is 75. So I'm going to do my deciding if I can simplify it or not. Well, 75 is not prime, so I'm going to start. 75 splits into, if you're not sure, we can divide it by 5. You can always test it out in your calculator. 75 divided by 5 equals 15. 5 is prime, 15 is not. 15 splits into 5 and 3, which are both prime. So that simplifies to 8 stays on the outside. Radicals of 5, oh, I'm going to just do least to greatest to be consistent. 3 times 5 times 5. Ask yourself if there are any pairs. Yep, there's a pair of 5s. Pull that out. Now what do I do with the 5 and the 8 that are out there? I multiply them to give me 40 radicals of what's left over, 3. And that's my final answer. Last but not least, simplifying this radical expression. Notice all these didn't have any little symbol inside the right here in that radical spot. This time there's a 3, which means instead of pairs, or a number that I'm looking that multiplies together twice to give me the inside, I'm looking for a number that multiplies together 3 times to give me, in this case, 27. Well, what times what is 27? If you're not sure, make a little factor tree. 27 splits into 3 and 9. 9 splits into 3 and 3. 3 times 3 times 3. Hey, this time I need 3 to pull it out. So 3, and there's nothing left in my radical, so my final answer is a 3. You can also use a Desmos calculator, clear all, and type, if you click the one with the little n on it, you can put a little number right there, and then click on the inside, and you can see that my answer is also 3. Well, that wraps up the review. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, rewind, click through the video, find any of the questions that you have, and when you're ready, take the test.